Welcome to Worth Asking, a podcast questioning gender inequality in politics through interviews with politicians across South Asia. In these interviews, we ask leaders about their political journeys, the challenges they face, how they overcome them and emerge as leaders, and stories of allyship and support. Today, we have Dr. Sudarshini Fernandopulle, a member of parliament from Sri Lanka. Before entering politics, she had an elaborate career as a medical doctor attached to the Ministry of Health. Since then, she has also chaired several committees as an MP and also served as a minister. Let's get started with questions that are worth asking. Ma'am, thank you so much for joining this podcast.
Thank you very much, Aditi, for the opportunity given.
Thank you, ma'am. So, my first question to you would be if you could share a little bit more about your background and, growing up as a woman in Sri Lanka, what was it like?
Actually, I was brought up in a very conservative family. There were only two girls in my family, and both my parents were teachers. And we were brought up in a strict environment. But my mother was really empowered. She was an English teacher, but she was very positive. She used to give both the girls the opportunity, the freedom to do whatever we wanted. But of course, my father was real, from a patriarchal, he represented the patriarchal society where he always wanted a male in the family, but my mother never felt that way. So we were really empowered. And she also had very good, very positive attitudes about gender. And yeah, and even I was brought up by my grandmother. I think she was also empowered. She was a widow at that time. I used to see her as a very strong woman. That was my maternal grandmother. And then first 3 years I went to a small school in a very remote area, and thereafter I was educated in a girls' school. And I was the head girl of my school, and I think I would have shown leadership qualities even then to be appointed as the head girl. But we were brought up in an environment where education was number one, and it was we were brought up to believe that politics was not something good to engage in. So that's the background from which I came. And thereafter, I got married to my late husband, who was a politician, who was an organizer of a major political party at that time. And that is how I got involved in politics. At the very first instance, when this marriage proposal was brought, when my husband was introduced, I did not want to go ahead because he was in politics, and we were brought up in an environment where politics was found to be very difficult, very tough, not a good thing, and we will not be able to have a good family life. But all that changed after I got married to him. Yeah, that's my background. So in school, I spoke about my educational background. After completing my A levels, I was selected to the medical faculty, and even within the medical faculty, other than the educational activities, I used to engage in a lot of extracurricular activities, especially sports. And I captained the netball team, the basketball team, the volleyball team. So all these would have sort of, um, gave me a training to be a leader.
Absolutely, ma'am. And you mentioned about how growing up, politics was a field that was a complete no to marrying a politician. And you entered politics to continue your husband's legacy. So, can you talk a little bit more about that journey? How has it been so far?
Actually, to be honest, in our country, most of the women got the opportunity of entering politics after the loss of either the husband, a parent, or a sibling. And most of these women have remained in the system. They have been re-elected. So right now we have 12 members, women parliamentarians in Sri Lanka, of which 8 have been elected and 4 have been appointed. Of the 8, parliamentarians, seven have a family background. So that is the only opportunity that a woman gets to enter the mainstream of politics. It's very unfortunate. I mean, that's how the world's first woman prime minister was elected from Sri Lanka after her husband was assassinated. But however, she proved herself to be a very, very capable leader. I mean, that is the most, I mean, the South Asian region. Most of these women leaders uh, came into power, like, Bangladesh, the present prime minister. She has proved herself to be capable and she has taken the country forwards, you know, to great extents. Pakistan. So, and even India. So, all these countries, the women uh, came in after, the assassination of one of their family members. So that's how, and it even up to date, it remains so. Either that assassination or the premature death of a parent or a sibling. And that is how women get the opportunity to enter national politics. So, until 2015, the representation at provincial was less than 4%. National parliamentary level, it's only 5.3% right now. Provincial, it's 4%. And before 2015, at the local government level, it was even less than 2%. But however, the Women Parliamentarians Caucus, supported by the civil societies, the grassroots level women's organizations, sort of pressurized the government to take affirmative action. And right now, we have 25 by law, a 25% quota introduced to the local government level. So that's the story of women in politics in Sri Lanka in a nutshell.
You touched upon a little, but do you feel that your work or your achievements as a woman politician get the recognition that it deserves? And is it any different for men in politics?
Of course, yes. When a woman does something, the your opponents will say, "Oh, anyway, that development government will do that development." But if a man does, he worked very hard behind the scenes to get the funds approved. Even media also the value they give a woman they don't portray woman as a positive, a capable person. So there's a gender discrimination between what we do and what the males and females do. But of course, I have been re-elected twice. This is my third term in parliament. So, but there are people who recognize our efforts, the work, they appreciate, and that is how we have been able to remain in the system. So, there's overt discrimination between what men and women do. But of course, women are also recognized for the work they do.
Ma'am, you certainly mentioned about media and how media represents women. So, one of the questions that I want to ask you is, were you ever asked questions that emphasized on your role as, say, a wife or a daughter while being interviewed about your political views? How do you respond to such questions that are, often regressive in nature?
Oh, I don't think I have faced that situation because when I entered politics as a widow. So I was a young widow at that time. I had two young children, but I had a lot of family support. But however, I have reiterated in media, my first priority would be towards my family because my children grew up, without their father, and the mother dedicating herself to continue the legacy of their father after he was assassinated, and it was at the very height of terrorism in Sri Lanka. Uh, but I have always said my first priority would be my two children. But media, of course, I remember when I was first elected to parliament, they asked me whether I could sort of debate like a man. I said you can't compare a man and a woman; they are two different beings. But debating skills of men and women would be different. Even among men, debating skills would be different. There are people who are very talented. I mean, it's not gender. So I said, and also we have this stereotyped, beliefs. We live in a patriarchal society where they have different, the identified roles for men and women, and among politicians also the roles of women and men. They think women do not have the capacity and the capability to do what the men do, because we are always compared with what the men do, but we work differently. We are different. And biologically, we are different, but our capabilities uh, cannot be compared with another one. We all of us are different individuals. So, that's how I responded to media. I said, you cannot compare, men and women, and among men, and within women also, the skills and capabilities differs. So what they always try to put down and say, women cannot debate, they cannot engage in meaningful discussions. Even even the political leaders, most of our political parties are headed by men, and even within the decision making bodies, very few women are there. So the men also think that women are not very capable in delivering goods like men, especially in terms of financing campaigns, in terms of engaging violence. They think women are not strong. So these are all patriarchal ideas, uh, which exist in our parts of the world.
Right. And ma'am, we talked about representation of women politicians in, say, media and culture, but do you think it could possibly also impact the women aspiring to join politics and those in her family and close circles, like certain gender based stereotypes that come up? Do you think it would
Of
have?
course, yeah, because even the women are portrayed as people who are not capable compared to men. And also they're very often criticized. They're criticized about the way they talk, the way they dress, the 12 of us are compared with the rest 213 men. So that's a great disadvantage. And women are criticized heavily in media. The even the girls and young women aspiring to become politicians, they are pressurized by their families not to continue, because you're heavily criticized. Politicians per se, irrespective of gender, are heavily criticized by society, and compared to men and women, women are at a greater disadvantage. So this will be a very negative factor, because the family also will pressurize the women not to engage in politics, and women per se will, they will be a bit scared, they will be worried as to whether they will be able to face such situations. Yes.
Right. You mentioned about numbers. So Sri Lanka has one of the lowest numbers of women in the parliament among South Asian countries. So, ma'am, what do you think are the challenges that women face when we talk of Sri Lankan politics? And more importantly, can you share an example where someone you know or you yourself have overcome such challenges that were thrown at you?
Actually, the women do not, at national level. Now, of course, local government, there's a 25% quota. Even provincial level, the new act has a 25% quota identified. But at national level, the women have to compete with men. And women also have to compete with, they have to get through their leaders are seeking nomination. And as I said, majority of these parties are governed by men. There are hardly any women in the decision making bodies. Women are confined to the women's wing, and parties also have not taken any affirmative action to give more nominations to women. Uh, so the women do not have an opportunity to contest even if they want to, and also you need a lot of finances, because we have to run an entire district. Right, I have to sort of cover 13 constituencies. I represent the Gampaha district, and a population of around 2.1 million. So to run an entire campaign, you need huge finances. So this is very negative for women. But however, the Women Parliamentarians Caucus recently uh, engage with the general secretaries of parties. We had one-to-one interviews requesting within party reforms. We requested them to, from the national list, like, of the 225 members of parliament in the present parliament, 196 are elected and 29 are appointed. So we requested them to uh, uh, appoint 50% from this nominated list. So that is, after 29, we expect 14 women to be appointed as members of parliament. And also we requested the general secretaries to give nominations to 30%, at least 30% women from each district. And also we are recommending a 25% quota at parliamentary level. We are planning to bring in a private members bill asking for a 25% quota at the national level. So we think we are asking this quota as a temporary measure to attract women to enter the stream of politics, and once they are in parliament for 2 terms, we expect them to go back and contest, so that the society also will see that the women also can deliver effectively.
So you may also have worked with women in local governance as an MP. So did you come across instances of, say, disproportionate violence against women? Also, if you could touch upon how did you overcome these challenges that you usually face?
Of course, there have been instances of violence during campaigns, and also the women who were from the appointed list, from the quota, they were sort of looked down upon as, and you have not been elected, like you have been only nominated, and some members were not even given adequate funds to do their work, and some were harassed at their local government institutions. Of course, there was an incident where a lady local government member was assaulted, but of course, we wanted a complaint from her to initiate an inquiry, but they later on they settled the matter, so we could not pursue it. However, we have been with civil societies, we have been able to train these local government members on different about the local government acts, to how to respond to social media, how to sort of about the criticisms that are made on public media, electronic media, printed media, as to how they should respond, how to communicate, etc. So we have been working with the civil societies to train these local government members, and I'm happy to say that we have been able to train a significant number of members, and we also have requested honorable speaker to appoint a select committee which has the powers to investigate any instances where a person is discriminated based on her gender. So until then, women did not have they had only to go to the Human Rights Commission. But of course, they have a lot of complaints, and they don't have enough time to dedicate themselves to issues relevant to gender. But we, with this select committee, we have got the powers to investigate whatever discriminations that take place in the society. I mean, based on your gender. And we have been able to draft a policy on gender equality and women's empowerment, which was led by the Women's Parliamentarians Caucus, which I chair. And now we are in the process of drafting two acts and on women's empowerment and gender equality. And this women's empowerment bill has identified the need to appoint a women an ombudsman to where you could complain, any instances where you are harassed as a woman, and also the establishment of a women's commission. So these progressive steps will definitely contribute towards the empowerment of women. And also there are networks established with the women parliamentarians and the local government authorities with the support of civil society, which I firmly believe also has created a closeness between these women local government members and the parliamentarians.
This is very interesting and very inspiring, also the steps that you talked about. But that makes me very curious. Would you know of any such redressal mechanisms available for a woman in politics in Sri Lanka?
Women in politics, of course, like, when there are harassments in parliament, we have been, we have raised our concerns, we across parties, like, when I was in the government, and when a member of parliament from the government side verbally abused a lady member on the opposition, I stood up and requested the honorable speaker to take action immediately. So we have been able to work across parties to speak for one another, but unfortunately, the actions have to be taken by those above us, but that has not been done. And for assault, it's the, like, it's the police, where local government members have gone to the police, and also the other places to complain to your party leaders. So, but very often, I don't think whatever in some parties, the leaders may not take such complaints seriously, and then again they consider that to be a weak point of the woman.
Right. Sri Lanka has seen one of the bloodiest and the longest ethnic conflicts. And generally, when we talk of conflicts, they exacerbate challenges that women in the country face. So, how do you see politics as a platform for women, especially those from, say, ethnic or religious minorities in the country? And I'm talking about both in terms of challenges and in terms of opportunities.
Till 2009 May, we went through a very hard time, and in the southern parts we have a lot of widows whose spouses worked for the army. They are left behind, and in the northern again there are a lot of female headed households who are struggling, because unlike in the southern, of course, the widows, they receive the pension, the benefits from the government, but the in the northern area, there are, I think, large numbers of female-headed households who are struggling economically. But unfortunately, women from the northern area, from the Tamil ethnic community, women from the Muslim community, women from the uh, upcountry Tamil community have not been voted uh, into parliament. And again, I think the patriarchy is very severe in such um, minority groups there, where the women do not get the opportunity of entering politics. And also, I think even only with this 25% quota that the women were able to enter the local government authorities. So we are yet to work hard and ensure that these ethnic groups are also represented. But right now it's only these 12 women parliamentarians who are representing these marginalized groups, and we have in different fora we have requested these civil societies and women's organizations to reach out to the women parliamentarians in case of any issues, so that we can talk on their behalf.
And you have also worked at, say, regional and international platforms. So, what are your experiences there, especially as a woman leader from South Asia? I'm talking about various platforms such as, say, Women Political Leaders or Interparliamentary Union and others that you have been a part of. What is your experience there?
We have been able to, attend these international conferences, especially on women's empowerment, on violence against women, especially organized by IPU, Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, and even I must tell you that I took part in an online conference organized by the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung Foundation, and I was able to this workshop spoke about the need to have a gender equality and women's empowerment policy. And following subsequent to this workshop, we were able to give leadership. The women parliamentarians gave leadership, drafted women's empowerment and gender equality policy for Sri Lanka, because Sri Lanka, the women's ministry had been struggling to get this policy drafted and approved, but we were able to give leadership, and it was launched on the 8th of March 2023. And following that, we have drafted two bills, as I mentioned earlier, which is with the legal draftsman. This focuses on women empowerment and and gender equality. And we are also in the process of drafting an act on gender responsive budgeting. We will be initiating the discussions in a day or two. So all these international and regional exposure has given us a lot of insights as to what is happening in other parts of the world. We have been able to share our opportunities with each other, challenges with each other, the achievements with each other. So all these have been learning, experiences for us.
Right. And you talked about a lot of initiatives. You also played a very active role in managing the COVID-19 pandemic. You mobilize a lot of international support for the development of women in Sri Lanka. So, can you tell a little bit more about such accomplishments that you are proud of when we talk of your entire career, your entire journey?
Mm, I think during this short term, we were able to take a lot of positive steps towards women's empowerment. Like during COVID, of course, I was able to, mobilize a lot of donations from well wishers locally and overseas. And for women, I think we have been able to give leadership to many efforts, like in the police force. Although the women are recruited, the opportunities to rise up in their career was very limited, but we were able to intervene. And right now, the women have got the opportunity to get their promotions, DU promotions, because there are in the police force 15% are women, but they don't have a clear pathway to rise up. But now we were able to intervene. So and we were able with international support plan, we were able to review the sexual and gender-based violence prevention plan. We were able to review, and we intend monitoring it sort of every 3 months. We also developed a booklet on creating awareness on how to prevent sexual and gender-based violence at workplaces. So likewise, we have been voicing our concerns about sending mothers with young women overseas. Like, earlier the policy was to send women who had children above 5 years, but now even those having children 2 and above are able to go overseas. But then we were able to, like, we have been voicing our concerns because nobody recognizes the rights of the child, which are violated. We also have been, because even from Sri Lanka, there are a lot of unskilled migration that is taking place. So we were able to set up some people, there's a lot of human trafficking. So we were able to intervene and establish a safe migration unit at the international airport to monitor such, illegal human trafficking activities. It will some sort of reduce, if not eliminate it altogether. So likewise, we have been able to intervene where women empowerment is concerned, and we are also looking at certain laws to amend certain discriminatory laws. We were able to advocate and get the land ordinance law amended, where this initial the state-owned land was the parents were able to give it only to their male sons, but we were able to amend it, and now it could be divided among their children. So likewise, we have some listed laws to be amended, so which are in the pipeline.
So, ma'am, before I move to the last part of this podcast, I really want to take this one moment to acknowledge and appreciate the amazing work that you are doing. Thank you so much for all of it. So, if given an opportunity, what is that one thing that you would want to change for the women of Sri Lanka?
I will want equal opportunity for the women to enter politics. Women have done well in the field of health and education, but at the decision making level, we need equal opportunities for women, not only in politics, at all decision-making levels, including the private sector.
And let me add a sub question to it. What is that one thing that you would like to change for the women in Sri Lankan politics?
Equal opportunities like men. Right now, women are not treated equally as men. Even, in the present cabinet, we have only one female. But we know in most of the countries there are more females, not that the women are not capable. We have educated women among us. So we need more women at the decision making level, not only in parliament, but in the cabinet, as state ministers, even at local government, as chairpersons of local government authorities. So more women in decision making level.
Absolutely. So, what would be your message, ma'am, to these young women who are aspiring to join Sri Lankan politics? What is the kind of support that they can expect, and how would you yourself like to support them?
Of course, we, even in 2015, all the women parliamentarians sort of, when parliament was dissolved, we had a press conference together and we asked the voters of Sri Lanka of the three preferential votes to use one for women, irrespective of party, whatever parties, vote for a woman. So likewise, we would encourage, we need more young people, more young women taking up to politics. So within you have to work within your party structures, talk to your leaders and get them to nominate more women, get women into the nomination boards, and also make sure that your parties give at least 30% of nominations to women. Ideally, it should be 50%, but right now we don't have that many women entering politics. They say, where are the women? But there are women. Identify the women and give nominations. So the young women, I would invite them to take up this challenge. We need good people. We need educated women. We need disciplined women. We need disciplined people, whether they are men or women, to govern our country. So we need you. So please, within your parties, you better force your leaders, and make sure that there are more women nominated in their nomination list. The women parliamentarians will be able to support you, mentor you, share our experiences with you. So we are behind you. We can always support you. I will definitely support.
Awesome. One last question from my end, ma'am, would be that what would you like to tell your colleagues in politics about becoming better allies when we talk of gender equality in politics?
Definitely, we need the support of male colleagues because they are the larger voice. They make the decisions on our behalf. Support the women. Women have been left behind for the past so many years. The women out there have proved that they are also capable. So we need your support. Please support women to get into the decision making levels. We appreciate all the support you have extended, but we expect your support until we are equal 50-50 in all decision making levels.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Fernandopulle, for joining us on Worth Asking podcast series. Everything that we talked about with you has given us a lot of insights and above all, a lot of inspiration.
Thank you very much, Aditi. It was a wonderful interview. And Akhil, thank you very much for facilitating it and inviting me. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us on Worth Asking. We express our gratitude to 81 donors who made this year's podcast possible. To learn more about our work and how you can support us, please join our community by visiting www.cgapsouthasia.org/join. If you enjoyed the podcast, please leave us a review and share with your peers, especially young women interested in joining politics. Thank you and stay tuned.